Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video. In a recent interview by Sandy Munro with Lars Moravy, the Tesla's head of vehicle engineering, we got a lot of really great information, and I would highly recommend you take a look at the main video. The link is here on the screen and in the video description. But based on that, we got some great news and information that pertains to Giga Texas, specifically about these four areas. The first is the casting machine area, the second is the die shop facility, and now we know what that is for. The stamping and also Cybertruck painting system areas on the southeast side of the main factory, and also about the crash testing. Now for today, we're going to concentrate on the casting machine section and some of the news that came out during the interview. So let's listen to what Lars and Sandy had to say.
It's like 8,000 tons?
No, this is actually a 6,500 ton. The rear,
Are you kidding me?
The rear is 9,000 tons. Which is why we don't need necessarily 8,000 ton press for the front. When we started, we thought we would. We said, oh, we're gonna need 8,000 tons. But we worked through the team and we actually can make this front one on the same equipment as we make the Model Ys.
That may have gone by quickly, but that was big news. Here is the rear casting of the Cybertruck, and as Lars mentioned, they need to use the 9,000 ton Hydra Giga press to make this. And here's an image of the front Giga casting for the Cybertruck, and the big news is that they're able to use the 6,000 ton Giga presses that are already here at Giga Texas and also serve Model Y production. Now this is big news because not only does it mean that the Cybertruck production ramp can happen faster, but also the marginal cost for Cybertruck castings is being reduced because they're able to use installed equipment for the Model Ys, which is outstanding. So here in this image, I want to give you an idea of where this is all located. On the casting machine structure on the upper left, you can see where the four 6,000 ton Hydra Giga presses are already installed. On the right, you can see where the two 9,000 ton Giga presses are already installed as well. We can also see a newly installed aluminum recycling furnace that is almost completed, and the green area shows you an area where there are already foundations for future expansion of the Giga presses. Now, the interesting thing I want to show you based on what Lars said is take a look at these three arrows. They are going to be using two Giga presses, the 9,000 tons for the rear and one for the front. And let's listen a little bit more about what Lars had to say.
So how many presses are pushing these out now?
We have one for the front, two for the rear. But we, as I said, we have the Model Y ones.
Yeah.
So we have four of those. We can swap the die out. But we only need two. Cycle times are down enough to make, 5,000. We only need two presses, one for front and one for rear.
To help illustrate what we're talking about, this image from the 14th of August I took inside the casting machine structure. This shows the two 9,000 ton Hydra Giga presses installed. Also in this image, we can see that new furnace, or actually two furnaces being installed in the center bay, and that dashed area is the probable expansion for the future of Giga presses because the foundations are already in place. Not visible, but off to the left is the four 6,000 ton Hydra Giga presses that have already been installed and are operational. So really great new information that we got from Lars during that interview. So there you have it, a brief review of what we learned from the Sandy Munro interview with Lars about the casting machines section and also the Cybertruck castings. I hope that you found this portion of the discussion helpful, and stay tuned on a future video. We'll be talking about some of the other areas that were mentioned as well. So now let's get into the drone, let's fly around and see what Giga Texas looks like today. If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. Well, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get the flight in today because of all of the rain, but fortunately The rain broke for a short period of time, so I was able to get this flight in. We'll start off on the west side, taking a look at the material staging yard, the contractor parking, and also I'll zoom in and give you a good view of the work that is being done to complete the grade in this far southwest corner. You see the gravel mix has been applied, at least half of it. The rest of it has got most of the grade work done, and they're continuing to work on this section as well. Probably going to have this all graded out, and then we'll see gravel mix on all of this. It does look like perhaps that pond is going to be retained, which would be a first for all of the earthwork that has been done on this side of the factory. Now, the material staging yard here continues to have materials on the north end, but the south end is getting cleared up more and more. And these items here in the blue and white wrappings, also see some brown wrapping. I think that this might be a set of smaller presses, and possibly this may be related to a section on the southeast corner of the factory where the extension is going in, where they're adding some concrete on a heavily reinforced slab, and we'll see that a little later. The work here on the outbound lot continues. Not a lot of more paving, but there has been some concrete work. And on this side of the site, I'm going to bring the drone down in and give you some close-in views. This is something that I noticed on my previous video. I wanted to come back and get some closer-in views. And what we are seeing next to that excavator, those concrete sections, those are actually parts of a boring tunnel concrete liner system that is put in once the bore has been completed, and it makes the shape of the tunnel. So here's a really close-in view. Now, some people have said that they thought that maybe the markings on this, it looks like it says no poly, may mean that it's not going to be used. This image here shows you the boring site facility over at Bastrop, Texas. You can see all of those panels that are manufactured here. You can also see those red items next to that Quonset hut. Those are the molds that are used to make these tunnel segments. And by just comparing what you see here at the Boring Company facility and what we see here at the site at Giga Texas, it makes it look like they're definitely positioning these for use. But again, with those markings, I'm not 100% sure. So if you have any great ideas, let me know in the comments of the video. I'd appreciate that. So as we continue to maneuver towards the end of line facility, we can see these 3 large HVAC enclosures. Those are going to be installed on the west side. In fact, we'll be seeing where they're getting ready to do that installation. The large section here for the covered superchargers and the conduit continues to have more work. They actually have caps now on those kind of the pipes that have been stuck down into the ground as the mounts for that canopy system. Here on the west side of the end of line, you can see 2 of the concrete slabs next to where those vents are coming out of the side of the building. And then you can see a third that's under construction with that yellow moisture barrier right now and some of the rebar work. This is where those 3 HVAC enclosures that we saw on the south end will be installed, and it will connect into these ventilation ducts, and that will provide the heating and ventilation for this building. See a lot more work continuing with blue and white pipes on this side of the building. You can see how the trench work is continuing to progress up here towards the north. We also see that these 3 green electrical boxes next to those conduits look like this is mostly completed now. And under the ground where they filled in the trench, the conduit has gone through those vaults and continues over to this large underground kind of a conduit manifold system. You can see how it branches out on the right hand side. You can see the conduit going through the vaults. On the left, you can see that HDPE pipe with the smaller pipe sticking out of it. That all goes over to the main factory, and that's how the power will come over to this facility. And we see some additional trench work on some concrete pipes on the left-hand side here. But overall, looks like they are wrapping up most of the trench work and the conduit, which is outstanding. Now, we're going to get ready to cross over the highway. There's a big news story that is happening here on the southwest corner of the factory. And you can start seeing them now. There are, at the time of the flight here, 21 of the Cybertrucks all arranged on this side. I'll bring the drone in closer and we'll get some good views of the Cybertrucks. You can tell here that two Cybertrucks have been moved. You can see the dry patches in the middle section. I'll throw up this image. This was what I took when I first got here. You can see at this time there were 23 of the Cybertrucks, and all of them appear to have the Moravy sticker, which is the piece of paper that you see on the dashboards, and that's usually used as the manufacturing the MSRP paperwork that is given to the customers. So all of these appear to be customer vehicles, and with those dry spots you can see that they have definitely been moved around, possibly moved over for transport. It's hard to tell at this point in time, but it's indisputable that there are a lot of Cybertrucks here on this corner of the building. And it's the first time I've seen the Cybertrucks being put here, and this has started about the last 24 hours or so. As I pull away, get a good sense of more of the work on this south end for the building extension. All of those trailers with the rebar, that's being used to make the footings, the rebar cages that will go into those footings. Also for the rebar mounts that stick up from them for the column mounts, and then of course the formwork will go around it and they'll pour the concrete. And this is a good view of the construction of those footings, the concrete bases, and then these that have been completed in concrete, and then they have the grid lines painted on them. And again, that will extend the building, grid lines 85 through 93, or approximately 400 feet and approximately 120 meters or so. As I continue to maneuver the drone here, not only can we see the superstructure of the steel increasing and more of the steel arranged for installation, but this is a new delivery, and I'll zoom in slightly here for you on this still image, but this is Tesla automation, and this is a lot of the equipment that is manufactured in Germany by Tesla. And then it's shipped over here to Giga Texas. They also use this in the other Gigafactories as well. Now, I did notice later on where this was going. This was going to the taller of the two temporary loading platforms on the southwest side, going into the third floor of the General Assembly area that we know that there is some of the Cybertruck production going on in that particular location. So it's pretty neat to see these large Tesla automation deliveries coming to Giga Texas today. As we get closer to the steel structure, you can see that extension on the left. Not only is it 5 columns now more towards the west, but it has now doubled in size or width. So it's 3 columns on the width right now. And we can also see the floor decking that was being installed in my previous video on this section is mostly completed. They're going to get ready for putting rebar on here, and then they'll pour some of the concrete. And most of the roof beams are in. Some of the roof decking materials have been put out. You can see that on the left too for some of the floor decking materials. And so this will just continue to develop fairly quickly. And as I mentioned earlier, when we saw those components that may be for a smaller set of presses, this heavily reinforced foundation may be the location where those will be destined. Just on the other side of that concrete wall is stamping machine section. So it would make sense to have those in this particular area, and with that reinforced foundation, that would make a lot of sense as well. A lot more of the steel materials still being stored here next to the road, waiting for its turn to be moved over and then assembled into that structure. A lot more of activity on the east side of the building, as always, on the left-hand side of the screen. And right ahead of us is the ever-growing multi-level parking garage, and its shape is starting to really become defined. The stairwell on the left has grown in height now. They've filled in that empty space between the stairwell and the structure on the left-hand side of the screen. And also the structure has grown more towards the east as well. Plus we see those panels that have sort of like windows cut out of them. They have steel bars vertically within those panels as well. And it also looks like there may be a slope to one of them. So that may be either showing where we're going to see ramps on this new side for the vehicles to go from one floor to the other, or it may be showing something with the roof itself. But as you can tell, it's definitely getting larger. More of the double T panels on that trailer getting ready to be moved onto the structure. And of course, there'll be more of the materials arriving on site. The eastern half of the site with all of the footings continues to expand and have that formwork and concrete work. And it's reached almost all the way across that center section. And we see more of the materials on the left, more of the materials for the parking garage at the bottom of the screen. And overall, this is how this construction site looks today. So as I reposition the drone to head towards the testing and calibration lot, we'll come in lower and get a good sense of what is going on here today. The biggest thing is the number of Model Ys. The production rate for the Model Ys, to me, just by observing for the short period of time that I'm here, definitely looks like it's ramping up. We'll see a lot of the Model Ys on the outbound lot as well. Not so many of the Cybertrucks here, but it looks like, at least for the time being, they are storing them on that southwest corner where we saw them earlier in the video. There's a few others in the outbound lot, which we will see shortly. The receiving docks here, some of the concrete apron work still underway. Those enclosures on these docks all are pretty much completed, and you can see the trailers using them right now. And then that other section, I'm still waiting to see concrete poured back in. All of this section is where the wiring through the conduit that will power Giga Texas, or is powering Giga Texas, flows off to the left of the screen and then along this berm all the way up to the electrical switch yard. More of the castings, and what we talked about earlier in the video is very important here, is that it has to do with the fact that the 6,000-ton press is making the front casting for Cybertrucks, and then they have the two 9,000-ton Giga presses making the rear of the casting for the Cybertruck. So that may explain some of the production that we're starting to see, and they're putting all of them on the southwest corner. It also suggests that many of the, at least the fronts, are going through the factory to where they are needed, and we just see some of the rears being stored out here next to the racks, which are also for the Model Ys. On the bottom left of the screen, you can see that concrete work on that new walkway through the crepe myrtles across the road has mostly been completed now. There's just one section on this left next to the parking lot that needs to be completed. So as we approach the outbound lot, this will be a good view of what is going on with both the Cybertrucks and the Model Ys. You can see 5 Cybertrucks here waiting for pickup by some of these trucks. Many of the trucks waiting to pick up the Model Ys, and a lot of Model Ys here today. Both lots, the testing, calibration, and the outbound lot. Also a lot of the trailers to pick them up as well. So as I mentioned, to me, just observing for the short periods of time I'm here, the Model Y production does look like it is ramping up more than we've seen in the last month or so. As I approach this intersection, we can see that geotextile membranes are being applied, and then of course the dirt mix on top. It looks like this is all being prepared probably to extend the road through this section over towards the warehouse on wheels. So another development that is underway here on the east side. Speaking of developments on the east side, this clearing is growing larger, sort of in the middle section here. It used to have a lot of workshops and materials. Now it looks like it's being prepared possibly for maybe a improved material staging or maybe some other use, which we will have to see as it develops. As we fly over the contractor trailers, we also see the recycling yard on the right, this large mound of dirt, which is used for recycling as well. On the bottom of the screen, we see more of those superchargers. It looks like there's 16 of them here. This is going to be moved eventually over to the west side for that south part of the end of line. And then more of this earthwork and trench work in this section here. It looks like it's got possibly blue water pipes going through this section as well. So not exactly sure what the purpose is for that area at this time. As we approach to the east side of the battery cathode plant, get a good view of the activity and the shrinking amount of trailers and equipment on this side, which I take as a good sign. Also, the crash test facility, you can see several Cybertrucks and other vehicles that have gone through testing. The water detention pond and or the sedimentation basin with the filtration system in the middle underneath where that green seed mix is put on the berms. Looks like it's continuing to make progress, although with the rains today, it's probably going to slow progress until it can dry back up. But overall, pretty good view here of the crash test facility. On that structure on the north end, you can see that flying floor, and we had talked about that in a previous video. And so if you want to know more about what that flying floor is, you can go back and take a look at my 11 December video. The cell testing and recycling lab has that pavement all around it with the red markings and some of the concrete dividers. It looks like more vehicles are here. So probably they are now using this facility in some form, whether they're testing cells or they're maybe testing some recycling. But it looks like it's operational. On the northeast side, just a quick view of the materials, some of those 2 stainless steel tanks and those 2 kind of pipe tank-like items on the bottom right, still waiting for installation. And as we approach in closer towards the north end of the battery cathode plant, we can see more of the work in the west side with that center section with all of the dirt and the geotextile membranes. And as I zoom in, this is a good view of the lift station. Almost all of the tops have been put onto the concrete vaults. Just that one door is open on that circular vault. And then again, this is a good view of the work that is going on for this center section, preparing it most likely for paving. The concrete on the left looks like it's being made for drains, and that goes into the underground water management system. And not only do they use those white plastic pipes sitting up vertically, and that'll be part of the drain, but they go into the steel corrugated pipes right underneath that section. The chiller plant looks like continues to have a lot of assembly work, testing work on the ground floor and also on that top floor. Those rectangular sections that are open next to the Evapco units still, I'm not sure if those are going to be filled in or not, but they do have the temporary fences. So for right now, it's going to be just like that. And down the alleyway, we can see the concrete work for the most part has been completed except for where the conduits and those concrete vaults are. All the conduits look to be completed now, and they're filled back in with dirt, and another section ready for concrete has the rebar. So we should see more concrete being poured probably after it dries out a little bit more. This is a good overall view of the west side, the east side. The employee overflow lot looks like there are a lot of vehicles today, so it's a very busy day for production here at Giga Texas. We also see that filled in area with some of the grade work has not really much work right now, although it looks like somebody was literally doing figure eights in it, as you can tell. Maybe they were doing some Cybertruck testing here, but still waiting to find out what they're going to do with that section. It may be part of a new road. And then here's a good look back at the cathode plant on the right, the die shop on the left. I'm going to be running a kind of a detailed analysis of the die shop based on what we heard from Lars Moravy in his interview with Sandy Munro. But the big news is that we know that the die shop is for die manufacturing, testing, and design, and also some maintenance for the dies used in the casting machines over in the casting machine section. So it's an on-site capability that has been added here, and now we know for sure what it is. Here's just a different view of that earthwork and preparation work here to prepare for probably paving in this section, but it'll be something to watch, and maybe we'll see some additional construction. You never know. So let's fly over to the electrical switch yard and see what's going on over there today. On the north end, we get a good look at this pole with all of the connections that are part of the Megapack system. This is where they connect into the grid. They go underground through conduit over to the north end of the Megapack site, and we'll look at that here shortly. The electrical switchyard itself is fully operational now. Both of the large transformers are operational as well. There's a lot of these spools of wire, and it looks like a large delivery being made in that wrapped white package. So perhaps we'll see something installed. My guess would be on top of this concrete vault where the scaffolding is located and next to those two trailers. We'll see if that comes to pass, but it looks like a logical place for that to be installed. And more of the spools of wire and finishing up of the electrical wiring through the conduit on the south end. So let's fly over the power lines and let's take a look at the Megapack site. The north end that has all of the electronic equipment, the steel parts, the transformer, also some of the circuit breakers, has had all of the gravel applied. And this section here, you see those three thick cables going into the ground. That's what connects to the north end of the electrical switchyard. But all of this looks like it's ready for commissioning. The fencing has got the lower level mesh that we talked about in my previous video. The rest of it all looks like it's ready to go. So they must be very soon working with ERCOT, ready to commission the Megapack site. And once that is done, I know that'll be a major milestone for Giga Texas. Here's a couple of Cybertrucks driving right by here on Tesla Road. And it will continue to fly over the road. And I want to show you the work on the staining is pretty much completed now on the northeast corner. It's just a small section on the east side that is remaining. And from what I understand from the company Nagha, this will, at least for now, complete their work here at Giga Texas. So I know that they're getting excited to finish that up. It's been a major project for them. And at some point in the future, I'll have additional information to share. On the north end, we see some of the deliveries to the plastics with that kind of that cylindrical tank on that blue truck. And then here at the 4680 cell section, I'll zoom in so you get a good view underneath that platform into the open section to get a pretty good idea of how this looks as well. And I'll have another video coming out, probably an intro in my next video, talking about the dehumidifier systems that have been designed and delivered here and the importance for the factory. Now, I was going to continue to do a little bit more flying, but I don't know if you can tell, the rain just started really coming down strong now. So I decided we'll go ahead and end the video here, give you a view of Giga Texas with all of the steam coming up off the roof and all of the rain on the ground. I hope that you enjoyed what we were able to see today and talk about in the intro. As always, thank you for watching. Have a great day.